Hey now, cats, we're back again this week on an all new episode of Movie Snobs. It's been a while. We've been gone for a minute, but here we are for your watching pleasure. We have, if you watch this, if it's your first time or if it's your, I don't know, what is this, episode number 8? If it's your eighth time, this is my bride or die, Mr. Matt Onesti, Wheels. I like to call him. I like to call him, if you're nasty. But I am Balls from Elwood, and we do this little show. And am a little less cultured than my friend here. I like
Oh,
crazy B movies and all kinds of crazy shit. And
is a pretentious piece of shit.
yeah, yeah. And then so the whole premise is I make him watch one of my shitty movies that I know he would probably never watch unless I made him, and vice versa. And then guess what? We talk about it. So let's just dig right in. My
Look,
buddy
I
Wheel.
am so excited. Which, by the way, if this is your first time watching, I'm sorry that you found. I'm sorry that you wound up on this corner of the internet. I don't know how you got here. Definitely watch all of the episodes now that you're here, though.
It's
I'm
like crack
excited.
cocaine, only better.
You're gonna want to be like, holy fucking shit, we fucking maniacs watching all these goddamn movies. Oh my god, look at that movie about the guy fucking the horse. Jesus fucking Christ, what a great movie.
Hey,
Um,
it's an
so
American classic, dude.
this is the first time we've ever done a theme show.
Yes, tell
This
them
is
about it.
this is a themed show. Balls and I very clearly very very big Valentine's Day guys. So we figured we were going to do a Valentine's Day show, or we were going to give each other under the same context that Balls just gave to you. You know, movies, me, a snobby piece of shit. But we're going to find love stories to then give to each other. Um, which I'm not going to lie to you, man. We'll bring this up, especially after we both talk about this. This might be the best double feature I think that we have ever created. The ultimate date night movie. If you are a sick fucking person, if you and your
Hello.
significant other are sick fucking individuals, these might be the best date night movies you could watch on Valentine's Day.
I'm not going to
Um,
disagree, man. I feel like this was an incredible double feature.
So buckle up. I'm going to get started on what Balls gave me. We're going to go the nutty route first this time around. So the movie that Balls gave me was a movie called May by a man named Lucky McGee, real writer director type situation. It was like a 2002 flick. Now this movie, like every movie that I go into when Balls give me something, I'm going into it completely blind. Um, this was the only like all I had in my head was there is some sort of love story, some sort of Valentine element to this, if you will. Um, the premise of this picture is about a very socially awkward woman named May. She was grew up with a lazy eye. She didn't have any friends growing up, so her mother gave her a doll, and then that doll was really her only friend. And then, when she's finally an adult, she doesn't have any friends, gets her eye fixed, finally, falls in love with this boy, well, falls in love with his hands. She's clearly socially awkward because a doll raised her. Things didn't go well. Um, and I'm not going to give a whole bunch of spoilers to this movie, actually, because this movie is really fascinating in the way that you can't really pin down exactly what it is. So, okay, actually, this spoils fucking everything. So, the crush obviously doesn't work out. May, she falls in love with this dude who, by the way, looks like Jim Morrison. I couldn't get over that the entire movie. He had the hairiest arms, and it was really confusing how hairy this guy's arms were. But she fell in love with him, but she was obviously socially awkward. He didn't like her back, and she freaked out. And then, push comes to shove, she's friends with Anna Faris. Also, like Anna Faris is like a lesbian who just kind of has sex with everyone and shows her physical intimacy, but then she doesn't understand how it is, and Anna Faris upsets her. And then she just sort of dismembers everyone and creates the perfect significant other. It really is the ultimate story. Um, I'm uh, I'm fascinated with this movie though because it had a little bit of everything, and I couldn't tell where this movie was going from Jump Street. I didn't assume this was going to be a slasher pick that was going to be, May kind of freaking out, cutting everyone to bits, and then sort of creating this other person. Um, I originally thought it was going to be some sort of weird like story about the doll, like this sort of haunted doll that is ruining her life or, killing. But it wasn't that. This was a psychological thriller turn slasher, and it's practically just about dealing with crippling loneliness. Like that's all this movie is. Like I know I just explained a lot of weird things that sound unbelievably disjointed, but this is an unbelievably disjointed movie. No pun intended, mind you.
I see what you did there.
That is the type of wordplay that only a sick son of a bitch can come up with on the spot. No, I'm just high as fuck. I couldn't pin down where this movie was going. I really thought it was just gonna, but I'm I think it was fascinating in almost telling the story of sort of that weird feeling you get. I mean, obviously, it debilitates like loneliness and not having people around you, wanting to be loved, wanting to be seen, not wanting to be seen as different, having these experiences. But it was so unbelievably relatable, which is fucking scary on so many levels because it seemed to be taking these so like these thoughts. Think about like this whole movie is about this girl, like the whole premise of it is built on May forming a crush on this character. And it's essentially taking all these feelings that I'm sure everyone has experienced when they've had a crush on someone, all these intrusive thoughts, all these you call them and then you're just sitting there waiting by the phone for them to call back. You're doing something, you're talking to them, and you come home and you're just obsessing about what you said or what you did as if it's great. But this movie took all of those intrusive thoughts and turned them up to like 6 million until again it literally ends with people getting dismembered, which was fucking crazy. Like this movie, like it kind of fucked with me. Like it kind of fucked with me in a bit. It was really cool. It was really, really cool. It was different and it was all over the place. And it was I hate how relatable May was. I hear like, dude, like, okay, so it create like it was a great horror film because it created an empathetic and relatable monster, which I could feel that like obviously there was a Frankenstein theme throughout it. The guy with
Yeah,
the
absolutely.
the cat with the dude, which by the way, I definitely learned some pickup lines from this movie that I really do want to use at some point. Like I especially like the Mohawk guy, to where like he would be sitting there and they're saying like, "Can I just take my shirt off?" She's like, "Okay," and then he's like, "Can I get some ice cubes? I'm really warm. Let me get some ice cubes to rub my nipples." Like just the best fucking pickup line ever. But then, of course, he goes into her kitchen, opens up the freezer. There's a dead cat that she killed from earlier. And nobody wants to see a frozen cat. That's just last. That sort of ruins any sort of mood that you could be creating. Um, but yeah, like it was. Oh god damn! Like it created like May was such a relatable, empathetic fucking monster that who like at first it was really cute. At first her crush and her obsessions, this oh my god, just believe in yourself. Just talk to that boy. And then before you know it, she's like biting his lip off. And then she's like telling him really graphic stories about like, what was it, like a dog's guts falling out on a patio and her like having this big smile on her face and him being like, what the fuck? Like then it just gets weird and then you're like, oh shit, like this fucking bitch is crazy. I liked it. I really, 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 really liked it a lot. Anna Faris is a gem, by the way. Like I just can't stress that enough. She like even as a side character is just magnetic as an actress, and it's really frustrating that she's not in more things. That's just like That's just like a side note. That's just like a side note from this movie as
And
well.
I feel that way about Angela Bettis, the woman.
Oh my God, yeah, like stole the fun. Like that movie doesn't work without her in the what
Yeah,
she was doing. Like it was everything.
I'm really glad that you pretty much nailed a, a very good portion of why how much I love this film. I was really hoping that you would pick up on all these elements and appreciate it the way I do, because it really does. Not only does it like you said, it kind of it's so relatable. I think it's such a beautiful film. I know that sounds crazy, but
Yeah.
like the character, I always feel like such a strong connection to, because like everybody's felt these feelings of the crippling fear of rejection, the crippling fear of isolation,
He's
and
an outcast, like very clearly, like this is an outcast, like a person who's been bullied and not welcomed by society anyway. You already feel really fucking bad for her.
yes, like I mean, even when like it makes you feel awkward and uncomfortable inside whenever it's almost like you're going through what the character's going through throughout the whole movie. Like, and there's not a lot of movies that really do that well. And like you're at the point where you're kind of rooting for her, and then when she her awkwardness and fucking gets the you're just like, ah, no.
Dude, she was so scary when she got like the scariest part of that movie. The funniest part of that movie was when she brings the doll in the case to the school with the blind kids and like they just bum
Yeah,
rush her.
they
They
just pretty
just like
much
the like she got bullied by the
by
blind
like
kids.
10-year-old kids. Yeah, like
And they knock over this giant glass case with a doll. It falls on the floor, glass shatters, and the blind kids are just like, it's out of the box. And then there's just a shot of just blind kids on their hands and
touching broken
knees.
glass.
Yeah, just on broken glass. Like that was the most fucking like
Frenetic.
chaotic fucking that was absurd. That was fucking absurd. Um, but the coolest part, the scariest part of that movie was right afterwards when she somehow just got all of the confidence in the world. I was, of course, I was reading everything that I could about this afterwards. Um, I saw somebody, I can't even take credit for this bit of like, picking up on the movie, but I read a little comment to where like uh, when the doll hits the ground, glass shatters, doll falls out, her inner child has finally been killed. And her inner child is essentially
Ooh, I
what
didn't
has
even catch
been
that. Like, that correlation. I mean,
it felt because it's like immediately after that, she's a whole different person. She is like this, she is a confident killer.
hmm.
And inevitably it all falls apart, and she realizes that this Frankenstein that she created could never love her, or as she says, like see her. And isn't that really all what we all want? We just want to be seen.
Yeah, see, it's funny, man, because like one of my favorite things to do is give you these kind of films that on the surface seems kind of like just your average kind of like horror film, but like there's always some sort of heart or meaning or underlying like
Well, there's
message.
always here. I'm going to give you another one that I really liked about this because, like, okay, we talked about the crush aspect of it, these intrusive thoughts, these, taking, but then there was also this other angle to it, which I thought was really interesting. And it was almost mocking sort of the superficial elements of dating, of how we approach this concept of dating. And it was interesting because it mocks how superficial it is, not just with May as the victim, where the people are, oh, I'm not going to talk to you because you have a lazy eye, or you a pirate. Her mom being a shithead to her. But it was interesting, like even in the beginning, there's a scene where she's sitting on the bench, and she's telling the story to the doll. But then she's like, there's just something about, sees that boy, and the boy sees her eye and runs away. But she's like, there was something about him I didn't like either. He didn't catch my attention. And at first, when I heard that, it was, well, that's a coping mechanism. That's her coping because society is rejecting her. So she's she's gonna protect herself by finding fault in somebody else. Well, what made me change my mind is there's a scene later on when after she's after May is completely snapped like a fucking twig, she's measuring Anna Faris, because she's gonna make a love doll out of her skin. She again very good seamstress. She's just May is a very good seamstress, but she picks up her hand and looks at her hand and the moles on her finger, and she goes, "You never thought about getting that removed?" And Anna Faris just goes, "My grandmother always said the imperfections are what make us beautiful." And May, like, and again, this is another thing of Angela Bett, like being a fucking knockout fucking actor and knocking this role out of the park gives just this disgusted look at that reaction, which I thought was so beautiful and subtle because it's almost mocking the superficial nature of how we view each other superficially and how even the weirdos will then start to view other people superficially, which I thought was really interesting that we're all maybe sort of this idea that we're all kind of up our own asses in how we see each other and that we're looking for imperfections as a reason to reject something, even if the rejection isn't valid, if that makes sense, which I thought was a really interesting thing from that.
Well, dude, I am actually so pleased that you dug this film. Like it's so nice to like see because like I mean I honestly think this is one of the most beautiful horror films ever made. Like I mean I connect so much with that character because I mean my growing up
Yeah.
I almost feel like May a lot of time, and they did do a male. Lucky McKee actually did a companion piece to that where it's the male viewpoint aspect where it was called
I'm
Roman.
curious, does it hit as hard on the emotional
I
level?
don't personally think it holds a candle to May, but I mean, if you were curious about the polar opposite viewpoint, it's called Roman.
Yeah.
It's like a male. He was like a male May, but like I think May just set the bar so high that like
I don't like I would actually check it out, but I'm with you. I relate so, and especially as, and I'll get a little bit vulnerable for the Valentine's Day episode, especially as a a dude in a wheelchair who's never really been in a relationship or anything, like just this socially awkward kind of like, like not knowing how to view reality around, you know what I mean, when it comes to like interpersonal relationships like that, like it was fascinating seeing something that was taking, again, like we said earlier, these what clearly are really normal thoughts for everybody to have, and then just taking them to the extreme, which I think is a way to deal with it. You know what I mean? It's one of the best ways to then deal with it and then understand the absurdity in it. Um, but yeah, dude, like I'm fucking with you. Like I can't believe how much I wound up relating to May. It was kind of fucking terrifying. She was. I feel terrible saying that. People are gonna go watch this movie and be like, Jesus fucking Christ, you guys are maniac. We're gonna check your freezers for dead cats.
you know what though, dude, I do honestly believe they might feel that way in the beginning, but by the end of the movie, I think it'll be totally relatable. I mean,
It is because it makes sense, and it's I mean, I won't give sort of the essence of kind of what happens at the end of it, but it is the folly of it. It's not glorifying any of it, and it's not making an excuse for any of it. It's just sort of it's a really good horror film. Like it is a really, really, really good horror film. Um, it's multiple types of horror films. Like I see it labeled as a slasher. Yeah, it's a slasher, but it's also a psychological thriller. And it's sort of, you know, kind of, I don't want to say what a trick, but it sort of kind of tricks you a little bit into thinking it's going to be a paranormal thing too. It isn't. It's just, I thought that was a cool way of going about it. It's just showing May snapping and, breaking down and going psychotic. But yeah, dude, thank you. Thank you for
uh,
that one. Thank you. Thank you for destroying my brain yet again with something else that.
well, dude, I'm moving right along with the Valentine's special of Movie Snobs. Actually gonna thank you this week, Wheels. I'm gonna thank you. I actually have to say, I think the movie that Wheels have given me was Harold and Maude, and I'm gonna tell you, dude, I think that's a beautiful and incredible fucking film. I can't even tell you how much I immensely enjoyed this fucking movie. I I have to tell you too. I mean, it made me cry like a little bitch with a skin knee. I mean, it's a beautiful love story, an unconventional love story, which is what this show's all about this week. And like I said, like you said, this was an
Give me the
incredible,
premise. I
incredible
had to
feat.
try to explain May. You got to try to explain Harold and Maude now.
Oh, I could do it to you. I could do it real quick. Uh, let's see here. A 20-year-old dude that's obsessed with suicide and has bougie rich parents and just kind of almost gives up on life. Meets an 80-year-old that is pretty much just, a little bit insane, but a little bit intelligent in the ways of life that it actually teaches him how to live. And, and then, a 20-year-old bangs an 80-year-old broad. The end. So, I mean, so yeah, but it's a beautiful thing, man. Like, and I actually, I myself did some reading on this, and it is just a really a beautiful expression of, you know, it makes you question, like, you like you were talking about with May, where like things are so people are so judgy with like the physical aspects of things, and it does make it makes you think that like love is love. Like, I mean, this is a beautiful love story, and really it makes no difference the age of the characters or anything. It's just a very sweet and beautiful story. And I mean, it has. I honestly went into this the first 15 minutes, and I'm like, man, I don't know, man. I don't know if I'm gonna be down with this. And I have to say, from that point on, it just clicked, and I'm like, I really started to like, get involved with, Harold, and like, and then once he meets her, it's like fucking dude, it takes off like a bullet train, like, and it's such a beautiful expression of love, and not even
Where did
just a
they meet
sexual
that?
love, like love in general. Like I seen that this movie is embraced with like the LGBTQ community, and I could see why because it is such a beautiful expression of love is love. Like, and you don't need to put labels on it or put people in a box of like sexuality or gender. It's just if you want a beautiful love story and it's kind of unconventional and wacky, and this movie has everything, dude. It has very incredible dramatic scenes. It has some great dude. I actually was surprised how much I laughed out loud during this movie.
Dude, Hal Ashby, the guy who like Hal Ashby is probably one of my favorite directors. Like I didn't understand what I wanted to see in movies until I started watching like his shit. I don't know if you ever saw Being There. That's probably the next one I'm gonna have to give you.
I
Uh,
have not, but I've
even
heard of
off the show. We're gonna keep talking about Harold and Bob, but we'll talk about that afterwards.
but I have to say, man, like I was pleasantly surprised. It goes through the whole gamut of emotions. I mean, and the lady that played Maude is like phenomenal, dude. Like, I mean,
It's hard not to fall in love with her.
yeah,
Like you watch that and you're like, I'm falling in love with this 80-year-old woman
she's
too.
such a free spirit. I'm thinking I probably would have banged this broad too. Why not? Like, yeah, I'd have tea with her. What the hell? So, I mean, I give her to 3 inches behind the barn. That's fine. I mean, but yeah, I'm just like I have to say I was pretty surprised, dude. Like I honestly, I can honestly tell you the thing that makes as I was watching this though, it's funny because like back then it makes me wonder. Uh, it showed me just how far sensitive people have become because you would never be able to make this film today. It would be such a fucking social faux pas, and people would be so fucking uproaring and raging out about it, and like it's kind of sad, really, because was that? Correct me if I'm wrong. Was that movie PG?
Yeah, what?
Yeah, dude.
When's the last
The
time you
whole
saw
movie's about suicide and banging an 80-year-old broad. It's a free spirit, and like you would never do that this day and age
You
ever.
don't remember the Rugrats movie having an entire Harikari scene where somebody dies by accident?
I no.
No, you don't remember. That's no. You haven't been watching a lot of kids movies these
Well,
days.
dude, I actually used to watch the show, but I'd never watched the movie. I think
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They totally had a Harikari scene in the
at that
Rugrats.
point, I had discovered Ren and Stimpy, and I was like, Rugrats could like eat a bold dick. Like,
um, it's a cool movie that is really like it makes you just it makes you believe that anything is possible. And one of the coolest things is it's not just that love is love, but that love is almost this infinite thing, right? That it isn't something that you have and then you don't have. It's like something that you have to always be willing to give and to know that you're always going to get. That line at the end of that movie when they're in the ambulance
Mm.
and you got Harold who's been trying to kill himself the entire movie, literally pleading with her, don't die. She's like, I took cyanide capsules, and he's going, but I love you, and she just says, and you'll love again.
I know, dude. It's such a beautiful. Oh, I was blubbering like a fucking little girl. Like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Like, it's funny because like Xtina's going in and out, and then like I'm in here. She's like, "Are you crying?" And like she comes in, and I'm like, and I'm like, "God damn it, Wheels!" Yeah, I didn't know it was gonna be that kind of movie. I would have
It
put
is.
myself
It's a
in that
really
shoes.
confusing movie. One minute you are laughing your ass off at, a fucking driving some fucking maniac lady and this dude driving a hearse around town and tormenting the police. And the next minute you're crying like a little bitch.
Dude, not only that, I mean, it's a very funny film. Like, I don't know how many times I laughed out loud. Well, some of my favorite scenes was whenever his mom keeps trying to hook him up with like regular normal girls, and like they pretty much head for the hills the minute they get to see they see him and they see what a fucking nut he is. So I'm like,
Oh, the one he burned himself like the monk in the background.
yeah, like,
And where do you go to college? He's lighting himself on
it's
fire.
got some great visual gags. I mean, like you said, this movie has pretty much something for everybody, and I'm like, I mean, I'm so shocked that like it was PG. I'm like, yeah, like I mean, people were obviously not that uptight back then, and like it shows to show you like everybody's so fucking sensitive, like, and then you're really gonna miss out, man. Like you can't make movies like this anymore, and I think it's a treasure. Like I really
Yeah,
do.
it's really, really hard to make a movie now that starts with a kid hanging himself.
Yeah, yeah.
That's
That's
a
the guy.
really hard sell.
Not only that, his mom just walking around nonchalantly, like, okay, well, dinner's at
He's just like annoyed by it. Just Harold. His
oh,
kid's got Harold.
yeah, dude. He's that was great, dude. I have to thank you. Like a part of me I wanted to actually try to mess with you and like pretend I didn't like it and then be like, just kidding. But I'm like, you know what? Fuck it, man. Like
I would have been so. I would have had to. That you would have got some serious arguments from me because I would have. This would have been one of the few movies I really would have been like, I got to defend this beautiful piece.
man, you don't have to defend anything. I would defend it at this point. I actually have to
This
watch it all the time.
movie is like Harold and Maude is like it's an absurdist movie. Like at its heart and soul, like it is such a beautiful absurdist movie that is like it takes one little thing, you know, sort of this idea Harold can't kill himself, but then everything else is so built in reality to then get you to see how brutal and absurd actual reality is around us, which I think is really cool. And then it plays with like the ephemeral, like fucking Maud's entire point of living is just to experience. Like she just wants to experience. She just wants to experience everything. The sights, the sounds, that fucking, just it's it's one of those few absurdist treasures, and it's really hard to find movies like that
Yeah, dude, I
that
agree.
capture the human element so well.
That's one of my favorite things about film. Like that's why I loved May, and I was glad that you did, and that's why I love this film, dude. Like I would own this film. I like it so much. Like
I think that's what's cool. And like we were saying, now that we've kind of explained both of these pictures and have talked about it a little bit, I think that's what's cool about this is sort of a double feature, which I'm really happy that we kind of fell ass backwards into. We'll have a quick content meeting too live on air. We should try and theme our shows every once in a while, but having random shit, that's real juxtaposed, that's fun sometimes. But I really liked having these two movies next to each other in the way that we did because they were so abstract and out there and weird, yet we keep saying they hit every ground when it came to comedy. Or these are two stories that hit every single piece when it comes to like dating and relationships, um, being lonely, not understanding who you are. Like both these movies were so unbelievably interlaced in these like really visceral emotions. And I think they're really, really interesting to watch back to back. Because you're going to have an existential crisis of love, but it's an existential crisis, mind you.
Yeah, I do feel like they were very complimentary, and I mean, yeah, we did kind of just stumble upon it. I'm glad we did do it. It really did work out, and I'd be open to doing a theme show every once in a while.
So we'll have to see what the fans say if they want us to do it. You'll have to send us your theme. Send us your
Yeah,
theme
send us your
email.
yeah, send us a theme, your ideas. Tell us
The
what you
PO
think
box
about
is going to
this.
be at the bottom, and you just send those in to us, and we'll get to it.
Well, I tell you, dude. I mean, unless you have anything else, I think we should probably wrap this up here. But I'm glad that you enjoyed May. I am actually probably going to purchase Harold and Maude. Like, I
Oh,
actually want that in my collection. I actually, it's going to look a little funny next to a lot of the other stuff in my collection, but in a way, it kind of probably fits right in.
stylistically, though, it really fits in. I mean, there's a lot of blood and guts and crazy. You know what I mean? Like, again, there's an entire scene involving Hari Kari. Like, what more? What more could you want from a love story?
Not only that, the whole 13 Reasons Why bathroom scene, dude, there's no way you would pull that shit now. Nobody's doing that now, dude. That would be, can you imagine? It would be all over the internet about people would be in complete shock and awe that, like, look at the depiction of suicide. It's like a mockery, blah, 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 blah. Everybody be all up, you know.
But honestly, though, but this will be maybe this will be even just the last one. I know we were going to wrap up the show, but like that's even another element that it might have even been mocking is sort of this concept of not giving in to those things. You know what I mean? Like it to illustrate the absurdity in what that action is, and it's a horrifying action full of finality. And by mocking it and bring it to light in a way that doesn't allow for the finality, you then get to see how absurd it actually is, how absurd that act can be, and for what, right? To take you away from, again, what made Maude so important to the story, the living aspect to it, concept that love is always there, and
I
that
know it's a sweet movie. Like, I can't imagine somebody watching this movie and being offended and like, being, triggered. All I could think of is just a sweet love story, and it's just unconventional to the point where it's just beautiful. I have to say, dude, yeah, you turned me on to something, and I'll be honest with you, dude. If it wasn't for you, I would have never watched this movie. I would be
yeah,
flipping through, going me. So
it's all, and that's I'm going to say the same thing with, but like the premises of, and these are two interesting movies too, because I feel like the premises of both these movies for what they are, they don't feel super, like I didn't feel gripped by, like after I watched May, I'm like looking up the description of this movie to see how it is. And like I may have even just done a better job of describing it than even some of the, what I was seeing on like IMDb or
I
something.
think so,
And even
dude.
the same thing with Harold and Maude, like just the story of just the story of a young kid who wants to kill himself and an old lady who wants to live, and they date. Like that sounds fucking crazy. But like these are movies that like you have to experience. Like you have to experience these movies for what they are. And you will get something so emotionally fulfilling from it. And it's fucking insane because the content of these movies are insane.
And it's funny. I mean, you actually just brought up a good point too. Like I often wonder like how many times where movies are kind of like, you know, misunderstood and not explained correctly that people miss out on. And like, I mean, I'm hoping that your explanation actually does get people to watch it now that maybe probably wouldn't have been privy to that just reading this very vague explanation from IMDb. So,
Yeah. Well, the beauty about our show is if we're recommending to each other, don't take our bullshit, rambling descriptions as we're trying to get across how much. Just watch them and trust us, because unless we tell you that it sucks, and then don't watch it. and then send hate mail to the person who recommended it.
Yes.
That is always the appropriate thing.
But I have to say, dude, before we close, I have to say, I love doing this show with you because I have to say, you have single-handedly, I feel, made me more cultured and made me more, open to, giving more things a chance because I mean, I like what I like, and sometimes you get caught in that routine where you're like, I don't really want to go outside of my box because I like what I like. I can't even imagine, dude. I've liked most of the things you've, recommended to me, and I can't I think back, and I'm like, just like examples, like come and see and different things like that. I can't even imagine not have had ever seen those now. Like, I'm like, I'm so thankful that like you've turned me on to this stuff that, I really do appreciate it, and like I that's the beautiful thing. That was the whole reason I wanted to do this show. Like and it warms the cockles of my heart, if you will. So
Well, the cockle warming is mutual. My cockles have also been nice and warmed.
well,
Um,
that's nice for Valentine's Day because
it
I
is. We
dude,
have warm
I love
cockles.
you and I love your cockles, and I'm
Thank you for warming the cockles for about. But dude, like, and I know you always shit on the movies that you give me and say that they're like low brow beam. They're not, dude.
well, I mean,
Like,
I think the reason I do that is because it's just so incredibly different from what you're used to and
yeah,
what you like. I don't really kind of say it to kind of shit on. I just kind of say because like,
no, I know, but you've broadened my horizons in a way and made me more aware that like you can find these really beautiful stories and these really interpersonal, psychological, understanding these deep emotions. Like you can find those type of stories in something as wild as a slasher pick. Like you're showing me horror and like these weird type of genres that are still telling these really, as I refer to these like snobby and pretentious highbrow stories, but they're being done on a level that is like it's not concerned with that. It's just doing something else. And if it happens to send you an amazing message, then go fuck yourself. Like it's like it's like a renegade fucking thing. It's cool. And I don't know. I think it's really beautiful. I think that's one of the coolest things about filmmaking and movies just as an art of how wide open it is and how you really shouldn't shut yourself off to anything.
yeah, that's
Like
what I think
every
that's the
movie is
most
worth
important
that.
thing that you've taught me, dude. Like, I think this has been a great project, and I love doing the show. And happy Valentine's Day, buddy.
Happy Valentine's Day, Balls. Thank you for warming my cockles, buddy.
Dude, I'll warm your cockles any day of the week, buddy. You get them over here, I'll warm them. So have a happy Valentine's Day from the Movie Snobs. I'm Balls from Elwood. This is my
I'm Matt Onesti.
and we'll see you again, hopefully sooner than later.